And so, do you want me to start again?
I forgot.
No
I'm
problem.
really sorry. Yeah, we're just gonna continue from there. Sorry.
I can recap a tiny bit. So just to recap, no problem. Just to recap, I'm now a mother of four, Baruch Hashem. I lived for many years with undiagnosed depression, anxiety, and at the age of, well, this was about 10 years ago. My daughter's 10, so at the age of 26, I was diagnosed bipolar. I found myself in a psych ward. And Erev Shabbos, I was put into the second unit, which was a lot less intense. Because I had been under such duress and so much supervision, and I was a mother at the end of the day, and I really wanted to see my children, that Shabbos, when it came in, my family was so relieved. Bashie's in a better unit. She'll be out before we know it. I pushed on a door and it opened. And as a mother, I just thought to myself, I just want to go see my kids. Just going to go see them. I was going to walk to my parents' house. I knew they were there. And then I'll come back to the hospital. I'll come back to the psych ward. And when I stepped out, nobody was running after me. So I stepped out of the hospital. I started walking to my parents' house. And something in me told me this is not a good idea. Like the police are going to come. I don't know. Somehow, Baruch Hashem, I had the thought of this is not a good idea. But when I went back into the hospital, I didn't go back upstairs to the psych ward. I readmitted myself because all my life, it was all about self-help mode, fix it. I could fix this and everything will be okay. And when they saw a patient, like a girl by the name of Bashie admitting herself, I said, I just need to talk to a psychiatrist because I thought if I just talk to someone, everything will be fine. And they looked in their system and this was a patient upstairs that was already admitted. So make a very long story short, I was put back into the intense unit. So again, I'm locked up. My sister came to visit me when that was happening and she saw them moving me and it was very, very dramatic, very, very intense. But I'm sharing all this because when I came back into that zone that I thought I had finally gotten myself out of, because again, I was constantly living in self-help mode, something in me, the belief in myself being able to fix my life, the situation I was in, the people around me broke. It was crushed because I realized in that moment, oh my goodness, like there's no way I can get myself out of here. And it was an extremely hopeless thought, realizing that I tried everything. My family tried everything and I'm in their care and they'll do whatever they want to me. And so, they talk about, like there's no atheist in a foxhole. Chas v'shalom, I never thought of myself as an atheist, but being put back into the room I was in where there was no way to look outside the window. You weren't allowed anything, not even a pen, just a mattress on a bed. Sometimes they locked you in the room. Sometimes they left it open. Sometimes I asked them to lock me in because I didn't feel safe with the people around me. I went back into that room. I'm not going to use the word cell, but just to give you a picture of what that unit is like. And all I had in my room was a chitas. They allowed me to have a chitas. And Hashem knew that's all I needed. And I remember going back into that room and crying and just realizing I have no way of saving myself. I have no way of getting myself out of this situation. I don't know how I'll ever get back to my kids, how I'll ever get back to normal life. And I remember looking at the chitas and something in me just awakened. And I realized, oh my goodness, or however they say it, oh my Hashem, oh my, somehow he's going to have to get me out of here. And so that awakened this faith, this trust. And definitely over here, it was trust, because I always believed in Hashem. I never questioned that there was Hashem. I believed that he was there, but I never trusted him. The word trust wasn't even in my dictionary when it came to him, because in order for me to trust someone, I need to know them a bit. I need to feel a connection to them. I want to trust them. I feel like they're trustworthy. And for the first time in my life, I started really talking to Hashem, but it didn't sound pretty. It wasn't like, wow, Hashem, I've discovered you. I love you. I know you'll get me out of here. It was actually getting really upset at him. And up until that point in my life, again, because I was the type of girl that just wanted to get the A+, I never wanted to upset anyone. I thought that if I ever get upset at Hashem, and I took it very seriously when they taught me the Sarasa Dibrais, don't curse Hashem, right? The second commandment. So I took it as I can never talk badly about Hashem. I can never get upset at him because I'm going to be in trouble. And again, with such a punishing view of him. And so I got really upset at God, and I remember journaling and writing to him. And I don't even remember the words I used, but I do remember this. Being very visual, I thought that if Chas v'shalom I say something that would upset Hashem or use a word that wouldn't be such a loving, compassionate word towards him, a fire would come out of heaven and and being very visual. And this just, highlights the fear that I was living with. Nothing happened. I felt like, Chava, where she touched the app, and nothing happened. And in my own way, I felt like that. Like, wait, nothing happened. I got upset at Hashem. I told him how I really think, and nothing happened. And so at that point, I realized there was something in me that was like, hey, now we're talking. I can actually have a relationship with Hashem because I can be real with him, not just look at him as a king that's distant and, I have nothing to do with. But the only way I'm going to get out of this situation, the only way I will be released from the psych ward is if he makes it happen. And so when I was released, it was probably a week or two later. All I remember was I went in, it was summer, and I came out and it was already fall. So in Montreal, the seasons are very, how would I say it? Like there's definitely those 4 seasons. And when I came out of the hospital, I was not only a different person, I had this God of my understanding, whatever they call it. I had this relationship that I'd never had before. And I'll describe to you how that looked. I came out of the hospital Erev Rosh Hashanah, and my kids were slowly brought back to the home. So it was, not too hard for me. And after Rosh Hashanah, even before Rosh Hashanah, we were extremely private about what had happened because of the stigma, because of what, nobody would ever understand or people would judge me. Definitely the stigma was the biggest reason. And I went back. First of all, we pretended that I had been away on vacation. And I went back to my life as I knew it, putting on my sheitel, putting on the lipstick, dropping my kids off, going about my, everything pretending on the outside. But when I would come home, I'd fall apart. And I didn't know how to function having gone through what I went through. So every day I would come home, but now I had a God to talk to. I had a relationship with him. So maybe I didn't open the sitter and I didn't have that connection. It was a little bit too organized for me still. I still had that, I felt like he was a loving father, but then when I opened the sitter and that in itself is a whole journey. But I would cry to him and I'd say, I don't understand. Like, you got me out. You gave me these kids. You gave me my family. I need help. I need support. And every day, and I was cruising on the internet and Hashem just sent it at the right timing. And I saw on Chabad.org a 12-step group, Emotions Anonymous. I'd never heard of it, but I knew of the 12 steps. So before I knew it, I was on a website that literally described things I had been through my life that I'd never shared with anyone. And I found myself in my first 12-step meeting for me, not for someone else. It was for my own troubles and issues and difficulties. And I was in the basement of a church. And it was a French meeting. And before I knew it, I joined. I never went back to that meeting, but I joined and I started to recover. I started to experience healing, but not only healing as far as like emotional healing, I started working the steps, which helped me rediscover a loving God. I didn't have to live with that God that I'd lived with for so many years, because here he followed through. when I reached out to him in the depths of despair, he came through. He got me out of that situation. And so now I wanted to talk with him. I wanted to connect with him. I worked the steps, and before I knew it, I was living with a loving God. I want to stop here and just say that the 12 steps, and I'm not here to, promote the 12 steps, but, I can just share my own journey. But the 12 steps, a lot of the other therapies and the things I was doing in life, they call it self-help mode. So even when I went into therapy, which, I still have therapy, and it's life-changing, and all the different supports are so important. But what was really, really a game changer for me was that I didn't have to live life in self-help mode. I could live life, it shifted to God help mode. And so instead of fixing myself and fixing situations and fixing people around me, I can have this God help where I can admit that a situation is unmanageable, or that I don't know how to get better, which was what I was dealing with. I don't know how to get the support I need. But because I opened that channel, and I would bring God in by just asking him, hey, I need your help. I had this close connection with Hashem where I can say to him, I found myself in a situation, or my kid was going through something, and I would say to him, like, you created this problem, so you have the solution. So just send me a little bit of help here, like, I know I'm not God, I don't have all the answers, but I need your help. And it was more like this loving, like I said, loving father, or however, that got me through and pulled through. And so here I was like, wow, I had this connection with him. I've had this question of quite a few times, does it have to be like a life altering moment, or like such a rock bottom? Those are the words they use in the 12 steps, or, such a low that's how you develop a loving connection with Hashem. And I don't believe so. I do believe that everybody has their path and their journey through life. And that, like I said before, and like Tanya says too, nothing changes on Hashem's end. When I learned, Tanya, about that every time we do an Avera, it, like, our connection gets a little bit weaker. That's how I learned it. Like, think of ropes all pulled together. And then when I do an Avera, when I do something that separates me from Hashem, the rope kind of gets pulled a bit. And how I envisioned it was that Hashem had these big pair of scissors, and he cut a rope. So when I do an Avera, he's like, haha, cutting that rope, because he was like, out to get me. But after going through my experiences and wanting to get closer to him and wanting to trust him and seeing how much he was able to help me in life, I realized, and when I relearned Tanya as an adult, and I'm still learning it and teaching it and trying to, apply it in my life, I realized that nothing happens on his end. And they say the same thing, about, like, I remember hearing, like, the relationship between a Rebbe and a Chassid, like, there's always that connection. And it's also apparent to a child, even like I have, Baruch Hashem, teenagers. And sometimes, when they try to push away and try to push me away, nothing changes on my end. I love them. I want to connect with them. I want to be with them. I want to take care of them. But on their end, they're pushing back. So on my end, even though I felt whatever I felt towards Hashem, he always wanted to be taking good care of me and loving me. And he was, but I just had to tap into that. So I heard a great example of it, like a child that's learning to ride a bike. And they're on a two-wheeler now. And the mother says, okay, I'm here, I'm going to help you. But the child says, no, mommy, I want to do it on my own. So the mother, giving them that sense of independence, says, all right, but I'm right here. at any point, if you need, or you feel like you're about to, like, just call me, call my name. And so the child tries and they're getting it a little bit, and then they feel like they're falling, and then they're like, Ma. And all she does is she just puts her finger or her hand on the bike to balance it out, and the child feels safe. So I find, and from learning Chassidus, and that Hashem does that too. And Tanya tells us that too. Hashem gives us a sense of independence, that we don't need him, or we're doing okay. A lot of times I wake up in the morning and I forget that I need Hashem's help, and I'm going back into self-help mode, fix-it mode, and I'm on the treadmill and I'm running and I have to get this and that. I don't know, I'm pulling off, Baruch Hashem, now we're making an event for Tu B'Av, and I don't know how the money, and I don't know how everything's going to come. And as I'm talking now tonight, and I'm, admitting that I'm human, I think I forgot that Hashem, has everything planned out. I just need to ask him. And that's what he's waiting for. He's waiting. That's the whole idea of davening. Hashem doesn't need our davening. It's for us to be able to acknowledge, oh, Hashem, and that's what tefillah is all about. It reminds us, that I was learning recently, about the brachais and a farbrengen, and it's just about acknowledging him, being like, oh wait, there is a Hashem, like Maida'ani, that, oh, he's taking care of me. He's going to take care of me today. He's going to take care of this situation that I thought I have to handle on my own, that I feel like I'm drowning in. And that for me is a daily avaida, I guess that's the only word I could think of, is bringing Hashem into my life. And in everybody's life and everybody's day, it looks very different. And again, I don't believe that it has to be a rock bottom and a psych ward or prison, chas v'shalom, for someone to feel that trust in Hashem. And it goes back to the idea that from day one, like the Yidden, each one of us is not just a nation to Hashem. Each one of us is like an only child to an elderly parent. I don't know where that, like the source of that, but I've definitely heard that, and it's from the Torah that Hashem looks at each one of us as an only child after waiting years for a child. That's how much he loves me. And in order to feel his love, oh, thank you. Someone just wrote sources Baal Shem Tov. Amazing. Thank you so much. And in order to feel his love, I need to be able to love myself. And when I say these words right away, my former Bashie goes into like that fix-it mode. Like, wait, hold on. How do I love myself? Which therapy do I need? How do I help myself? The only reason why I just said that is because this past year, over the past 2 years, I lost both my parents very close together. And I started a shir in honor of my mother, and then unfortunately in honor of my father too. And we learned a book actually from the Baal Shem Tov, Transforming Darkness into Light, by Yitzhak Ginsburg. And I use the word life-changing, one of the things that I learned and that I had to teach others, because I was the one who was giving the shir, so I really had to learn my stuff before, was that how do we become close to Hashem? We become close to ourselves. Because who we are is a neshama. And how he said it in the book, it was a lot of times we look at ourselves, and I can say this for myself, that I'm me, I'm Bashie, my body, I don't know, everything about me. And as a visual learner, I have like this little spark, we call it Pintele Yid, a little spark. So just like a little spark is, flashing inside of me. But I am a neshama with a body that's around my neshama, that's housing it. And so when I get close to myself, when I develop love towards myself, compassion, and whatever else I can love myself with, whatever other qualities or whatever other thoughts, and however I get there, I'm becoming close to Hashem, because the neshama is a piece of him. And the inverse is true too. The more I get close to Hashem, the more I learn about Hashem through Chassidus, through life, the closer I become to myself. And like I said, I'll finish with this thought. My parents, like I said, passed very close together. And I can talk from today till tomorrow about how loving Hashem and how much he helped me and how much he took care of me and how I believe that I trust. But when I was teaching my high school students about bitachon and about trust, and we spoke about, believing in Hashem and trusting in him, I described to them a scene that I thought of, which happened Erev Purim. My daughter now is 5, Baruch Hashem, so she was 2 years old 3 years ago. And my son bought a bear costume. It was a really good one, because when he put it on, she was terrified. And he got a kick out of it. But what was really interesting, what I observed, was that he would put on the bear costume and he'd put on the face and everything, it looked like a bear, and my daughter would be terrified. And then he would lift the mask for a moment and say to her, "It's me." And he's that loving, funny, friendly brother. And she would just laugh and she'd feel reassured. And then he'd put the mask back on and she'd go nuts again. And for me, that is my relationship with Hashem. Because Hashem, at some times, he's so loving, he's so caring. I don't know how how the rent is going to go through tomorrow. I don't know how this child is going to get friends that they need. I don't know what job I'm going to have next year, whatever worries I have and things that I'm going through. I see how loving he is. Wow, money came in that I wasn't expecting, and Baruch Hashem, it paid for what I needed. And I see how loving he is. But then there are moments when he puts on that bear mask and I don't understand him. I don't understand, how is this the same Hashem that was so loving, so caring, taking such good care of me? And look, he took my mother at 74 years old. She was so young. She was vibrant. She had her whole life ahead of her. I don't understand. How is this the same loving higher power, God of my understanding? And that's it. It's the same Hashem. Because like my husband shared with me by Havdalah, we say, oh no, and now I'm forgetting the words. Hine kel Yeshuasi. Behold, kel, the name Elohim, Hashem, who can be severe and can show gvura, and that name that's, hidden in nature. We don't see all that compassion and love with our eyes, like someone wrote. That same Hashem, Yeshuasi, is my Yeshua, is my salvation. Eftach v'lay efchad. I'll trust him, v'lay efchad, and I won't be afraid. And then ki azi v'zimratka, because my strength is the name Yud Ke Vav Ke. So in the same sentence, we're reminding ourselves that the same Hashem, who can seem so punishing, who puts on the mask, it's only a hidden. Hashem doesn't want to be. It's like when the parent has to be strong with a child and they're like, "You hate me." But it's the same parent that's so loving. "I'm doing this for your good. I know you don't see it." And this sounds cliche, but I'm sharing it only because that's when the real trust kicks in, not when I feel his love and I see openly how much he takes care of me. I needed that parking space and he just gave it to me. Or that check that I thought was only going to be $200 and it was a little bit more. It's always parnasa. Like it ended up covering what I needed, right? And it's the same Hashem. And I feel like that's when bitachon, I'm sure I could learn from all of you, especially with this group that, and we're constantly working on that bitachon in that moment. Maybe it's not a moment where I'm locked up or I'm, but it's a day-to-day avodah that we're all working on. And just one more thought, going back to the neshama, and then I'll open it up for questions. Going back to the neshama, there is a part of our neshama that is not affected by anything in this world. No diagnosis, no label. There's a therapy model. My husband, is teaching me these. He became a therapist and he's helping others and helping me too, and shared that there's something called IFS, where there's all different parts of a person. And there's actually a book called No Bad Parts. And from all the parts, and this is in psychology, but it's all taken from Torah, from all the parts, there's the deepest self, the truest self, the part of us that's not affected by everything that's going on, whether it's trauma, whether it's diagnosis, whether it's a relationship, situations we go through, beliefs, nothing. And in Yiddishkeit, the neshama, the part of the neshama that is untainted, it's just as pure as it was when it was before it came down here. And it's as pure as it was when we were a baby and we didn't sin at all. And that part of the neshama is called Yisrael. And when we say the words Shema Yisrael, we're saying, and this I heard from a friend, that it's based in Hasidus, and maybe someone here can find the source. Shema Yisrael. We're talking to that part of our neshama that is unaffected by anything, that feels the love of Hashem, that wants to connect with him, that wants to be with him, that wants to do everything he wants, that knows he's loving no matter what's going on. And we're talking to that part of the neshama. And what are we telling that part of the neshama? Hashem Elokeinu. The name Havaya, the name Hashem, that's loving and caring, is the same as Elokeinu, as the name of Hashem, the part of him that we see that's punishing or hurting or causing pain. It's the same Hashem, Hashem Elokeinu and Hashem Echad. They're one. So I'll end with that thought. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to remind myself as I'm talking, all these ideas that we're so lucky to have, that we're so lucky to live with. And I'm sure even the questions, I'll learn so much from. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Okay, if anybody has any questions, you could just post it on the chat. And you're able to read it from on here, correct?
Yeah.
Be able to see it. So if anybody has any questions, you could post it on here and she'll try to answer it for you. As Hashem.
So I'm going to go back to the beginning. There was a question at the very beginning. So the question was, how do you trust in Hashem when everyone around you doesn't believe in him? Wow, that's a really good question. I think that's why we're in a group like this, that I'm like Zaycha to join today, because that's what gives us support, that reminder that we're not alone and that this is, it's real. The Hashem that we believe in and that we trust and that we develop a trust towards. I don't know, like your, unique situation, like your personal situation, but I really, really believe in the power of a group and the power of banding together and learning together and growing together. And I really think that whoever asked this question, this is the right place. This is the place, where it sounds like, a space to ask questions, to gain support from each other. I can only share my experience, strength, and hope, like they say in the 12 steps. I've learned that I cannot change others. I can only change myself. And if I invest in changing others, I'm going to be not wasting a lot of time, because obviously, shlichus, and it's all about helping others. But I truly believe that when I change myself, when I strengthen my attitude, my belief, my connection, it affects those around me. I hope that answers the question. I don't know that I have all the answers here, but definitely I will try to address them with you. Okay, so that was one, and that was, yes. Okay. The Hine Kal Yeshuasi, I actually, I can probably send Shayna, if I find out from my husband where it's from, I could send Shayna the source of it. We actually, we heard it at a recovery Shabbaton, a 12-step Shabbaton from people. And that's where at the Havdalah with every type of Jew in the room, that's where it was shared. So my husband had gone to that recovery Shabbaton and had come home and shared it with me. So I don't know that it's necessarily a Chabad source. It's definitely from Tyra, and I can definitely find out where it is. To repeat it, the idea is that Matzei Shabbos, we say, Hine Kel Yeshuasi, behold, the name Elohim, Kel, Yeshuasi is also my salvation. So even that, so when I think of Elohim, I think of that bear mask. So that part of that side of Hashem that can be punishing, that can, or not punishing, but maybe, it's a side of him that does have Gvura, is Yeshuasi. And maybe in my own life, I can say, when I was put back into that closed unit, that was the Kel, but it was my Yeshuasi. That's what Hashem knew I needed. And Evtach v'lai efchad, I'll trust in him. Evtach from the word bitachon, v'lai efchad, I won't be afraid. Ki azi v'zimratka, because my salvation is, and my strength is Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of Hashem that's loving, and that bear costume with the mask up. So I hope that answers it. The name of Rabbi Ginsburg's book is, somebody wrote, Transforming Darkness into Light. It's a bit of it's not an easy book to open up and read, with a bowl of popcorn. And I actually had to learn it with my husband before giving the shiur, but I learned a lot from it. He actually speaks about the limitations of psychology and relying on others to help us, and how it takes us to a whole new level when we tap into Hashem's strength. So it's a very powerful reading. I can share my email address here, definitely. I'll just post it here. Is that okay, Shana? Or yeah, okay. I hope that it comes out here, and you're welcome to reach out. I don't know if it's okay, Shana, to mention that I do have people that, since I became more open about my story, I have reached out to me, and to make time and to be able to help. I do coach women, young girls. I don't know if that's okay, Shana, to mention. Okay, I'm not trying to, but I'm just saying, if you do reach out to me, I
of course, sorry, you didn't hear me. Of
Okay.
course, we're here to give chizuk, and you're giving so much chizuk to everybody, for sure. Share whatever.
Okay, so I do coaching, and I always can set up a 15-minute free discovery call. Anybody who reaches out to me, we can speak, and but usually after 15 minutes, it would be coaching, and it's through the 12 steps, Yiddishkeit, Hasidus, whatever. I share my experience and try to be there for others. So I just wanted to mention that. So I'm just looking if there's any more. Okay. How can we build a trust for a God when our human understanding of trust works with limits, such as if someone breaks our trust, we lose it. So if Hashem breaks our trust, now I have trust issues, LOL. How do I deal with trust issues with Hashem? Very, very good question. After my mother passed away, the first Shabbos, so we have it now, a frame in front of our home, in the front hallway. And we had a frame that my sister posted in my mother's room. Think good and it will be good. And it was our mantra to help us get through. It was a very, very quick illness. And when she passed away, Shabbos came, and my kids were breathing Trachkut Vetzaingut. I told them, imagine Bubby on that bridge. She loved biking across that big bridge in Montreal with you. Draw pictures of her. She's getting better. Bubby's, and then Hashem had other plans. And so Shabbos came, and she did not want to light Shabbos candles. And I said to her, light the Shabbos candles and tell him how upset you are with him. Tell Hashem that you thought he would save your Bubby and she would be alive. And then he decided to take her neshama. So even when maybe Hashem breaks our trust, and I know you put it in quotations, and I don't feel like I want to connect with him, I don't feel like I want to talk with him, I don't feel like I trust him, or maybe even I know I don't trust him, he's still there. And I've learned that it's okay to say to Hashem, I'm upset with you right now. I'm disappointed. I thought that you would follow through with this. We had an agreement. And so it's very difficult to continue doing what he, to do a mitzvah when I'm upset with him. And it's the same, I think of it as a relationship, in a relationship with our spouse, with someone that we care about, someone that we trust, someone that we love, and they upset us or they disappoint us. I don't want to go make dinner for them right now. I don't want to do something nice for them. I don't want to talk to them. But if it's a relationship, then it's okay to say to them, I'm just, I'm upset. I'm not up to talking right now. I'm not up to opening a sitter. Whatever it is, it's a relationship. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to give words of what to say to Hashem, but the idea that this is a relationship, and yes, sometimes, that trust and with our limited understanding, but, he's always there. He's that same, I can say it now. It's obviously easier to say when I'm sitting here, but I hope that answers the question. So again, I left my email. Whoever wants to reach out, definitely with pleasure. Weren't you at all uncomfortable with God of my understanding? It can be so twisted. Also, did you actually go back and make amends with everyone? So daunting and scary. Two good questions. First of all, I'm not sure what you mean by twisted, but from what I'm picking up, and you can always write to clarify. I did hear that God of my understanding is kind of like picking and choosing which God I don't know if that's what you mean, but I have heard that in the past. And like I said, and I clarified at the beginning, maybe before the recording, so I'll say it again. Nothing changes on Hashem's end. My process, connecting with him, trusting him, believing in him, maybe going back and forth, maybe this morning, I don't feel him here. I don't even know who I'm talking to. It doesn't change who Hashem is. He was, haya, hayve, v'yiyeh. It doesn't change on Hashem's end. It's the same God, and it's one God. We believe in one Hashem, but it's on my end. In other words, so I'll go back to the words you use, God of my understanding. I learned that growing up, going through a frum school, a frum home, I developed a belief, a connection, an understanding of the God of their understanding. And Shais Taub speaks about this too, I believe, in his book. I believe it's the God of my parents' understanding, the God of my principals' understanding, my teachers' understanding, because they are really, and again, it's the same Hashem, but it's how I view him, how I connect with him, so everything changes on my end. Hashem is unchanging, and he's like, so it gave me that chance. The God of my understanding for my personal journey gave me that chance to rediscover a loving Hashem in my life, to give him another chance, to give myself another chance to connect with him, to believe in him, to trust. And again, trusting in someone, there has to be some kind of relationship. And I had a lot to say to Hashem before I was going to start trusting him. Trust me. Did I go back and make amends with everyone? I'm going to be very honest here. It's a rigorous program of honesty. I am stuck at step 9. Step 9 is actually making the direct amends. I don't know why. I'm pretty afraid, but all that to say, I have, picked up the phone and called some former classmates that I felt, it is very daunting and scary. I'm with you. It's very freeing. The people who I've spoken to and called them and it's like lifted something from me, but it is a very honest question. And that's why the support of a group helps so much. Okay, how do you reconcile the idea of defining Hashem? How can we define Hashem? How do you create a version of Hashem you can accept? So again, defining Hashem is always on my end. It doesn't change who Hashem is. I don't know what you mean by how can we define Hashem. I think that the Torah, Chassidus, Tanya especially gives us an idea, even like Chabad is all about that, giving us a concept and an understanding of Hashem, that we can even access, those parts of him through learning Torah, like Tanya says, or my shir this morning was reminding us of that. How do you create a version of Hashem you can accept? I don't know, maybe other people have inspiring words for that question. I think it's a great one. And I think it's very personal. I think, it's interesting because I was once at a 12-step retreat for women, and there was a guest speaker, and she had had years of being in the 12 steps with her husband. And someone asked the question, do you trust your husband now? And we all expected her. She had been like 30 years in recovery and changing herself, and her response was no. And it threw us all off. And she said, I trust in little, like, trust globally was difficult. And we're talking about a human being, her husband. We're not talking about Hashem, just the idea was, I trust he'll take out the garbage if I put it in front of the door, and he'll fall over it going out. He'll take out whatever it was, like little trust. I trust he'll drive the kids to school and, on time. So I chas v'shalom, I don't want to ever compare Hashem to a human being, because it's impossible. And we can't really define, like, with our limited understanding, but just the idea that maybe just for this moment, I don't have a huge way that I can accept Hashem, that I feel, that love, and whatever situation I'm in, whether it was after my mother passed away, after I was released from whatever situations I went through, or even on a day-to-day basis. But I think that when we can look at moments, even though I'm in a moment which is difficult, and I don't see how Hashem's ever going to take me out of this, and he put me into it, so maybe that's not why I want to trust him right now, but being able to, at the same time, they call it DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy is all about being able to handle two realities at once, and even two extremes. So I'm in this situation that he's put me in, but at the same time, I can also see that, I don't know, my kids woke up this morning and they're alive, and that's Hashem. So just being able to see maybe parts of Hashem, looking out for those, that's, all I can really come up with, but it's a really gold question. Again, who are we to define? Okay, so clarifying, who are we to define what Hashem is? I think that Hashem wants us to connect with him, and to love, and to work on ourselves to have that connection and trust towards him. And because we're limited human beings, I mean, Torah, Yiddishkeit, we have different definitions, different names of Hashem, different qualities that Hashem has. So, and Tanya gives us that privilege and that gift of getting to know who Hashem is and what he does in our life and how it affects us. But at the same time, I think from what I'm reading your question, to define what Hashem is, I think we just clarifying that it's not defining Hashem, it's not limiting him. It's us trying to just get a little bit closer to him. I hope that that answers the question. So a recording, I'll leave that to Shayna. And yeah, someone's about to post a comment, but I think that we're nearing.
Yeah, there was one more question. Someone asked me directly. I don't know why she did that. It's probably by mistake. She was asking which book, like if someone would want to try to follow those things that you were saying, any books that you recommend them starting with, or any good reads.
Okay, is that like specifically the 12 steps?
She didn't say 12 steps, but I guess she was just saying which book in general. I guess 12 steps makes no sense.
Yeah, and if she wants to clarify, I could definitely answer that. Everything. Well, look, I think it's beautiful. The letters, like I've learned with two friends, In Good Hands. There's that book, the Rebbe's letters, all about trust and bitachon. There's Chayves Halavaves. I mean, it's life-changing. I know Shalom Mordechai in prison, it helped, like he learned it, from what I understand, like tons of times. I feel the same. I could always keep relearning it. It's like a bitachon like no other. There's so many books out there. There's like Shayna, like what you're saying, Letters of the Rebbe, and the name of the book by Shais Taub is God of Our Understanding. You can get it on Amazon. And again, he links the 12 steps with Yiddishkeit. Those are books that I've read, and I'm not much of a reader. That's why I do it, with the power of support with others. Chayves Halavaves is gold. I mean, I know the Rebbe said to read it, and yeah, Like there's so much out there. And, again, it's the idea that I find in my life is instead of all that self-help mode, how can I help myself? How can I connect? Like for me, that was always my default. It's living in God help mode. And it's I'll just end with this thought. We're talking about tefillah. My favorite tefillah, and I heard it's the Rebbe's too, was my da'ani, is my da'ani. The way that I heard my da'ani, my husband shared with me, and it's changed my relationship with my da'ani, is my da'ani, grateful I am. Before the word I, we say the word grateful. So like grammatically, if we were talking Ivrit, if we were in Israel, you're not really going to go around telling people modeh ani or modani. You'll say ani modeh, ani moda. I'm grateful. But as a Yid, we start off, the moment we open our eyes, we start off with my da'ani. So grateful is a place of humility where we recognize that there is something higher than me, higher than the I, is Hashem. My da'ani. Lifanecha, before you, Melech Chai v'Kayam, right? Like a very everlasting king. Shechazarta binishmasi, that you returned my neshama to me. Bechemla. Bechemla means with mercy. Because even if maybe I'm not so deserving of my neshama today, maybe I did a few things yesterday I'm not so proud of, or I don't know, for whatever reason, I've also, dealt with people who have, tried to overdose, so no matter what reason, Hashem chose to give me my neshama, bechemla, with mercy, with compassion. Why? The last two words are like gold. Rabba emunasecha, because he believes in me. Hashem gave me my neshama today, and like Tanya tells us, every moment Hashem is is constantly giving it back to us on a moment to moment basis. But specifically, the morning after it's the 60th of death. Rabba emunasecha, Hashem believes in me. Hashem believes and he trusts in me that I will try to make this day the best day possible. I'll try my best to connect with him, to love him, to feel his love and acceptance, or whatever journey I'm going through in this day. So I'll end with that thought. And again, thank you so much. Thank you so much just for giving me the opportunity to hear my own voice and to hear all yours over chat, to remind myself how important this topic is. And thank you so much.
Thank you so, so much. Really appreciated hearing all your thoughts. It was very powerful. Have a good night.
Have a good night.